On my second day of being incarcerated in Badger Section at San Quentin, my cellie, Egghead, had been assaulted while he was out on the yard. I hadn't been prepared for the cops to come up to the cell at yard recall and hand me a plastic bag. They said he wasn't coming back to the yard, he was going to the infirmary, and I had to take any personal items that he had and put them in the bag for the cops. I never did see Egghead again. I'd assume he entered protective custody, that's called sensitive needs in California, and was probably housed at a different facility after that. It was 2 days later before they had yard again, and I did finally go out and meet the fellas, as it were. I was really surprised by how small the yard was. I was used to on TV seeing these big sprawling prison yards with guys running laps. The concrete yard in Badger Section was the size of a baseball diamond, I'm going to say. It was very small. There was an area at the end for people to play cards and whatnot. There were tables. There was a handball wall, and there was a half of a basketball court. And everything else was just kind of crammed between these three landmarks. I did finally get a chance to talk with Sam and Irish for a couple of minutes about what I should expect being an inmate here. Sam broke it down to me and he explained the mandatories to me. And I've talked about these before. It's mandatory yard, mandatory showers, mandatory chow, mandatory workout. They mean those mandatories, and the way he explained it to me was, you're going to come out to chow every single day, breakfast and dinner. I don't care if you're hungry, it's mandatory chow. And if you're not hungry, there's a white man right next to you who wants to eat, so you make sure you offer it to him. And besides, if something kicks off on the way to chow, you want to be there, right? Mandatory showers. He said, I don't shower, I just bird bath, and then I go stand by the showers in my boots in case something kicks off. And you're going to do at least that much too, because you want to be there if something happens, right? Mandatory yard. You're going to come out every day to be with your people, and there's going to be a mandatory workout whenever you're out here. You're going to get your wind, and you're going to get strong, because you've got to be ready if something happens, and you want to be there with us when it does, right? These were not hypothetical questions. It was, yes, that's what I want, to every question he asked, and it was the only answer that was acceptable. Once he'd been over the basic rules, and one important one that applied just to Badger Yard. People didn't travel in groups of less than 4 inmates of an ethnicity. This was because things were very tense, and if you were alone, it was possible you might be jumped and beaten to death, honestly, to make a statement if one group had a problem with another. It's a policy that's enacted on the more serious yards. So Sam explained it didn't matter what I had to do. If I had to blow my nose, I had to get 3 friends to come walk with me over to a corner so I could blow my nose. And that if anybody needed somebody to go with them, it was my responsibility to offer and try and make sure they were safe. And then it was time for the workout. I was not planning on having a hard time with the workout. I thought of myself as a strong man. I told the story about Dragon a couple of weeks ago where he and I got into a little scuffle. But prison workout is not something I was prepared for. We all lined up and Sam went down and did a burpee, which is basically a squat and then a push-up and then standing back up, and then everybody else in his group did a burpee, including me. And he went down for number 2, and I went down for number 2, and I was feeling good, but by the time we hit 10, I was... And by the time that we hit 20, even though I was trying to keep up, I probably would have gotten sick soon. I was turning red-faced, I couldn't breathe, I was sweating after just 20 burpees. I wanted to die, it was bad. You see, I had some pre-existing physical conditions which made this pretty hard for me. I was born premature. I have very poor cardiovascular health, small lungs. I've never run a mile in my life, and if we're being frank, I doubt that I ever will. And I had taken a nasty fall in my adolescence off a freeway overpass and hurt my back and my knees. Long story short, I was a mess. I was a very unhealthy 20-year-old who thought he was in better shape than he was. Sam had an opportunity here. He could have made himself look big and strong. After all, he was belting out these burpees, no problem. He could have, hey, look at the new guy, he can't keep up. That's not at all what he did. Instead, he stopped the workout and had all 7 of the other guys calm down and take a breath and make sure I was okay, and then walk with me to the water fountain. Let me get water, he walked me back, he slapped me on the back and said, "Hey Aaron, don't worry about it, come over here with me," and walked me to a group of older guys. They were in their 40s and 50s, and there was one real fat guy. This was obviously the remedial workout group, and Sam was cool about it. He said, "Hey guys, I'm going to ask Aaron to come over here and work out with you, and he's going to keep you honest." And it was a decent way of putting me with the group that I might be able to keep up with without embarrassing me in front of everybody else. Again, it was Sam showing a real leadership quality. Yard recall is a process. They bring people in just a couple of cells at a time. They announce on a big PA system, "It's yard recall, yard recall. If you live between cell 105 and 110, go in now." Everybody on the PA system insists on talking like they're the DJ at the worst radio station in the world. I don't know what it is about being a correctional officer who gets his hand on a mic, but it's universal. It's always, "Hello, High Desert, now I'm glad to be here today." Anyway, we went back into the cells, 5 at a time, and I went back to my single cell because I didn't yet have a cellie. And I even at that moment reflected on the nature of leadership and even the price of leadership. Sam had done a great job of bringing me in and making me a member of the group, and I hadn't even noticed it happen. I know that the next time that I went to dinner, I felt more like I was a part of the group, and I guess that was his job. But let's talk about what a shot caller is, really. You figure on that yard, there were 20 or 30 guys that wanted to be a shot caller, but Sam was the shot caller. In this story, there wasn't one instance of him actually calling a shot, though. You figure it was all him subtly manipulating correctional environments to maximize the utility of his assets. He had a lot of opportunities to alienate me, to make me so that I was a less useful asset, because that's what somebody who rolls up on the yard, a potential soldier for a general, that's what they are, is an asset. Instead of telling me to feel like a member of the group, he pulled me aside and spoke to me like I was a member of the group. He gave me a small gift, a pair of boots. Whenever he saw that I was in an embarrassing situation and I couldn't keep up with the workout, he made a joke out of it and made me feel like I belonged somewhere with the other group, the remedial workout group. These are all examples of Sam doing things that a shot caller has to do to be effective, but which aren't calling shots. It was him being a leader. That's what a leader has to do, not just tell people what to do, lead, but to act as an example of what somebody should be doing. If you lead from the front, and rather than telling people how to be good at something, you show them how good you are at it, you'll be a more effective leader, a more effective shot caller. Sam knew that. It's a lesson I sure am glad I learned.